The music world moves fast. Want to stay up to date on the latest albums and get in-depth examinations with the artists? Check out Consequence of Sound, the podcast. Bite-sized album reviews for the music fan on the go who wants to stay in the know, and much more. Subscribe to the series on iTunes or your favorite podcast provider, and let the writers of Consequence of Sound steer you right. Check it out at consequenceofsound.net/COS podcast. Consequence Podcast Network.
Welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's an audio interview series presented by WFPK Independent Louisville at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Before we get started today, take that moment to hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening from, whether that's on Spotify, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest, Jake Shimabukuro. The ukulele maestro has a brand new album called The Greatest Day. We'll discuss its writing and how Nashville plays a big part of his writing lately. He also teamed up with Jerry Douglas for a couple of songs on this record. One of them is covering Jimi Hendrix. That's important because Jake has been called the Jimi Hendrix of the ukulele for a long time now, so talk about the weight of what that means. And we'll get an update on his next record, which he's already working on. It's got a lot of collaborations in it, including Michael McDonald and Willie Nelson. All that and more. It's Kyle Meredith with Jake Shimabukuro.
Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Jake, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, man. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
That's what I say at the beginning of the interviews. Thank you for your time. It is great to talk to you about this new record, The Greatest Day. Congratulations on this one. It sounds fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I was really happy. I was most happy about, when I got the final mix and I took it home to my parents. They both listened to it, and they said that this was their favorite record of mine. So, I'm a grown man, but still trying to please my parents, right? So
that never stops. That never stops. It is cool listening to some of these, and I'd like to bring up a handful of the songs too, because here you've called it The Greatest Day. That's one of the originals on the record, and I thought the way an artist as yourself would title an instrumental has always been interesting to me, because unless you had an idea in mind beforehand, it really has the potential to give it new context afterwards. Like, I now have a mental image of what this amazing day would be like. But do you go into the songs with a title in mind or with a concept or a structure in mind like that?
Yeah, sometimes it's I'll usually have an idea, whether it's a musical concept or just an emotion, before I start writing. Or sometimes I'll start writing first, and then it'll make me think of something, and then that'll help to finish up the tune, right? But like the Greatest Day, like that song, I actually wrote that the night before we went into the studio because I had trouble sleeping because I was so excited about going into the recording studio. But that song, it's all about contrary motion, right? So you have this one descending line, that keeps moving down, but then on the high string on the ukulele, it just keeps ascending, keep moving forward. And so the idea was every day we have little obstacles that we feel like kind of push us back or set us back, but as long as we keep moving forward, like the main melody that just keeps moving up and up and up, then every day has the potential to be the greatest day.
And now I have to hear that again in a whole new light once again. That's so cool. You went back to Nashville again for this one, and what pulls you to Nashville? Because when you think about your main instrument of choice here with the ukulele, that's not an automatic pairing in a lot of folks' mind.
Yeah, well, Nashville is amazing, man, because there's just all these great studios, great engineers, great studio musicians. They got the coolest gear, and this album, The Greatest Day, is kind of a follow-up to my previous record, which was called Nashville Sessions, and that was my first all-original record. I flew to Nashville because I wanted to get that's kind of the home of songwriters. So I wanted to go there and just get inspired to write and compose. And so that's why I went to Nashville. And I had such a great experience, recording there. That's why when I was working on the new album, I said, no, we got to go back to the same studio. So we went to Ronnie's place. I brought in, pretty much the same team, the same rhythm section, but we added more players. We brought in a string player, players and horn players and keyboard players, and even Jerry Douglas he plays on 3 tracks on this album, man. So it was just so inspiring, man. I mean, I couldn't stop smiling while I was in the recording studio, and normally being in a recording studio is kind of sterile, and you get a little stressed out sometimes, but with this album and even the last record, man, I was just smiling from ear to ear, having so much fun and just being experimental and trying different things. So it truly was. I mean, it was like the greatest day for me, every day being in the studio, and I just loved it, man. I have nothing but just the best memories.
Speaking of guests, I just had Michael McDonald on my show a few weeks ago, and you've been working with him as well, right?
Yeah, we just got out of the studio together too. We were I'm working on a duets record right now, so I did a couple tracks with Michael McDonald. We did a couple tracks with Willie Nelson, Ray Benson, and we're getting ready to team up with a few more artists that I've worked with in the past, and just doing more recordings. So so I know we just released The Greatest Day, but we're working on a new one
right away.
But man, it is awesome. I love being in the studio. I just love recording. And before, I always loved performing more, like being in front of a live audience, but now, man, the studio side is really is just been so enjoyable, and now I don't know which one I like more. I don't know if I love being in the studio or being on stage, and there's really a rush when you're on stage and you're playing in front of a real audience in a nice hall. But then there's also this incredible, you feel when you're in the studio, you just have you have the time to create and just think of all these ideas, and you can have the craziest ideas and give it a try and layer things, and so they're both just wonderful experiences.
For all the comparisons in the past that you've had to various artists, Hendrix would pop up every now and then, and I thought covering him on this record had to have a little bit of extra weight added to that just because of whatever associations you've been thrown your way. Was that the case?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I always kind of stayed away, from doing any Hendrix covers just because, Jimi Hendrix, how do you cover Jimi Hendrix? But especially on the ukulele, right? So, I always kind of stayed away from that. But with this album, I really wanted to do something. And when I found out that, Jerry Douglas was going to be, we had talked, and he said, man, I would love to come in and record with you. So I thought, man, well, if you're going to cover a Jimi Hendrix tune, then, you just bring in the world's greatest dobro player to play it with you, right? So Jerry Douglas came in, and we had a fantastic rhythm section, Evan Hutchings on drums, Nolan Werner on bass. Nolan's actually on tour with me right now with a guitar player named Dave Preston out of Colorado. And so we just sat down and we just hashed it out and played, and I brought my wah-wah pedal, I played through this overdriven amp and just some crazy psychedelic effects and all that, so we just went wild, and it was supposed to be like a 3 or 4 minute tune, and I think it turned out to be like 6 or 7 minutes.
It's great to listen to.
Long improvisation, and that song, If 6 Was 9, is my all-time favorite Jimi Hendrix tune.
Bringing up Jerry Douglas, master of the dobro, and folks like Bela Fleck, who I know really well, and yourself with the ukulele. When you're a specialist of an instrument like that, and what I'm saying is basically anything but one of the main popular, super popular rock band instruments, it seems like, I don't know, it seems like the world could be your oyster, if you perfect it in that way. Does it feel like that's given you more access to things like this, to other folks, like it would be less crowded than, say, if you were a guitar virtuoso, where it seems like there are dozens and dozens and hundreds of those? Yeah,
I feel like the ukulele is such a young instrument, and there's just I feel like there's just so much more to that instrument, and that's why I love playing it so much, because it's like almost every day I'm discovering something new about it, and just always trying to push myself to try new things and to learn new things, and I feel like the popularity of the instrument has just been growing and growing and growing, and all over the world. Not just here, but like I mean, when I travel to different countries, like in Asia or Europe, Australia, Canada, there are just all these. They have ukulele festivals, and you can walk into any music store now. I mean. And they'll have a whole section of ukuleles, and that was very rare before. Trying to buy an ukulele outside of Hawaii. So I just feel like it's just been kind of taking off. People have been discovering how wonderful this instrument is because it's so compact, it's easy to travel with, it's low maintenance, it's easy on your fingers. You can learn it real quickly because it's one of the few stringed instruments where you can play full chords with just one finger. And I swear, if you've never played an instrument before, I promise I could guarantee that you could learn a song in less than 5 minutes.
Well, I always enjoy hearing what you do. And again, congratulations on the greatest day. And my favorites on there were like Bizarre Love Triangle and Time of the Season. I've just enjoyed this so much. And Jake, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for, I really appreciate it, man. This has just been an awesome experience, opportunity, and I'm just enjoying every moment.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you in Louisville when you arrive back in here very, very soon.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. We usually come through town once a year, but that's never enough, man. It's such a cool city, great vibe, and the people that come to the shows, they're always so supportive, and we just love just sharing our music with people. So thank you.
All right, man. Take care, Jake.
All right, take care, Kyle.
Bye.
Aloha.
Hey, big thanks to Jake Shimabukuro. Again, the latest record is called The Greatest Day, and it is available now. If you haven't already, take that opportunity to hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening from right now, whether that's YouTube, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Subscribe, follow, give a rating, leave a review, and after that, head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern, where you can also find some bonus episodes of this series. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.